Dr. Holmes. Now we got on our skin like we too cute. You got the memo. You know, is it possible for you to sit up a little higher? Yeah. That okay. Now you not always gonna say
Very.
your whole head disappeared. There you are.
Let me go. There we go.
All right, there you go. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, my babies out there in cyberspace and all my world fam. It is the even more fabulous Dr. Mother Love coming to you. I said it wrong. This is the even more fabulous Mother Love coming to you live and in living color on the show with me today in the building. This pretty lady, I think she got to be a little touched. Because you got to be a little touched to deal with other people's problems. This is okay, shut up, Mother Love. But it's just really something though. So now let's talk about, before we even get into the program, let's let everybody know we're going to be talking about relation. We're going to talk about relationship with yourself, relationship with your family, with your friends, with your church, and especially the relationship you have with yourself. This is Dr. Erica Holmes, who is learned in this. First, I want to know, so where you from? You got any brothers and sisters? You married? You got kids? What made you want to get up and want to say, I just want to thank you personally. Thank you for filling the gap for us, for filling the gap. And she does so many things. So we're going to talk about relationships, and you want to talk about your relationship, you are free to call us on the line. You could call us at 929-477 3088. That's 929-477-3088. And you'll get your answers to your questions right here. So okay, back to I want to do this too before you even talk it.
Okay.
It's Black History Month. We have this book called, going this way, Dirty Little Secrets. Dirty Little Secrets. This is a Black History Month, and this is a book. This is by Dr. Claude Anderson, and we're wishing you well, Dr. Anderson. You know we love you to pieces. This is a book where you could just, like the Bible almost, but for Black, you could just flop it down, whatever page you want to read. That's what's going to happen. And so in today's Black History Month, since this is Black History Month, did you know that the first horse racing jockeys were Black? You know that, did you? See, it says from the early days of horse racing until the early 20th century, most of the handlers, trainers, breeders, groomers, and jockeys were Black slaves. Black jockeys dominated the racing industry throughout the 19th century. Blacks were responsible for the daily care of livestock on farms and plantations. They performed similar duties in city carriage houses and racetrack stables. Now, I did not know. I mean, it makes sense now that we see how they revered our ancestors, that they're so popular. We're going to diminish you all the way down to you'll be a stone statue on somebody's front yard holding a lance. And they made their faces black as black could be. And look, and still we rise.
That's right.
And still we rise.
That's
so,
right.
So tell us, Dr. Erica, where are you from?
Well, first of all, I'm so excited to be on your show. I appreciate you for allowing me to be on your platform. I'm so excited to actually talk to you. So I'm born a country girl raised in the city. So I was born in a small town in Arkansas, and then like so many others, my family migrated west. So I was raised in South LA for most of my life.
So do you remember living in Arkansas?
Oh yeah, most of them, my mama sent me back every summer. So
you ain't gonna forget this, Missy. You are not. I don't care how big and bad you get out there in Hollywood, California. When you still have a daughter, you still have me, and don't think you too big for me to knock you upside your head.
Because you must have been in my house. You was in my house.
We got them Southern mothers.
That's right.
We got the mothers. Is your mother still on the planet with us?
No, she passed away.
Oh, so she with my mama, girl. That's why they raising so much sand up there in heaven.
There you go.
Oh, they were stomping all over the clouds. It was raining. We don't. If they say it doesn't rain in California, yes it does.
Yes it does.
And they can't handle it. They can't handle it. So when you moved from Arkansas, how old were you?
When we came for good, I was like 8.
Oh, so you remember pretty well.
Yes. Yes.
So did this 8-year-old transplant from Arkansas just wake up one day and say, I'm going to become a clinical psychologist?
Oh, I wish it was that easy. Oh, I wish it was that simple. No, ma'am. This story has a lot of crooks and turns all along the journey. When I was actually 10 years old, I decided that I wanted to be a medical doctor. I wanted to be an OBGYN. I wanted to deliver babies. And so my mother bought me a medical encyclopedia. I was working really hard in school because that's what I was going to do. I got skipped in high school, went to college early because I'm like, yes. In my second semester of school, I was taking a anatomy and physiology class or biology. I don't know. It was so long ago. And the teacher thought it would be a great idea to take the class of pre-med students down to the Los Angeles County morgue to see an autopsy. And I said,
So I'm not doing that every day. I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And I didn't have a plan B because that's what I wanted to do from when I was 10. So I kept going to college and trying out different things. I was a English major because my mom had been an English major. My older brother was an English major. And then I was like, okay, I don't want to read Shakespeare. I don't want to do that. And then I moved on. I went to anthropology and I was like, I'm not going to dig up, I was trying to find it. And then I actually landed on psychology and sociology. I was like, I love people. I love understanding people. I want to understand myself. And, when I think about it, I was the friend who a lot of people would come to and talk to and ask my opinion and sometimes not like it because I'm a straight shooter.
I see, and that's when they're the ones with the problem.
Right.
Because when you come to counseling, you got to be ready to put it all on the table. You can't be BSing your way and thinking, oh, she's not going to understand what I'm talking about. And the fact that, and you do understand, you live that. We've been with it. And I remember when I had to go to therapy, I had to take these therapy sessions for a position I wanted. And I said, but y'all already know I'm crazy. This ain't going to be nothing new. What? Y'all knew I was when y'all sent for me. Don't be trying to get brand new. And to be able to do what it is that you are meant to do. So you know why it wasn't coming to you when you were in college. You know why it wasn't coming to you, because that wasn't God's plan.
Exactly.
And you tried to help God along, didn't you? Well, I know I could do thus and so and such, and I could do it. And God was like, no, Miss Erica, just pay attention. No, this is what I want to do. So you tried to get into that fight with God. Well, Lord, right. And you know what they say, you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plan.
Exactly.
And your plan was not this. That was God's plan for you to love that.
Exactly.
And I just want to say thank you for, fumbling around, trying to find your way and finally finding your path and your mission. There are so few of you for us.
Yeah.
And I've always said, if anybody need therapy in America, it's Black people, and specifically Black men and women. Well, that's only coming to them, right? But seriously,
yes,
we can have a lot of clinical therapists that we can go to, that we can trust. And I don't know why they thought I'm not a racist. All I said was, I want to see the Black doctor. I want to see the Black psychologist. I tell the Black psychologist, I ain't going to tell y'all everything. And they thought I was being uppity. No, I was being selective.
Yes.
I knew that I was being selective, and I wanted to make the right choice for me.
That's right.
I found this lady. She, oh my goodness, Erica, I didn't even realize I still had so much pent up in me. And it wasn't anger or anything like that. It was just like, okay, this is not right. Something is not clicking. You always click, girl. And the doctor told me, you need to start caring about yourself. And I thought, okay, wait, back burner I came off of to the front burner to the big one, that the whole fire.
Yes.
Because we get on this little bitty part of the stove. We get the one for the similar pot, and you just go sit there. No, they weren't going for that. And I am so glad that I have a place to go. And don't be surprised. Dr. Erica, it's your crazy friend, Mother Love. She here again. She needs some help. And that was my therapy, making people laugh, knowing that I had the God-given talent to walk into any situation and break the ice and make myself comfortable. I don't care if I was the only Black person. Well, I'm really not Black. This is Black.
Right. Right.
These black people, this part is black. This does not go with my complexion. Get your colors right.
Right.
And so I told him I'd rather be called colored than be called black.
Mm.
Because I'm a
Mm.
whole bunch of colors. You know,
Mm.
and white people should call themselves colored too, because they got all the emotions and you can see their face change, turn green with envy, all that kind of stuff. But you are being so okay. Okay. Thank you very much. They coming in with notes. Okay, so when did you realize that you were in college when this happened? What was that experience like for you as a soon-to-be therapist?
So once I discovered sociology and psychology, at that point, I knew it just felt natural for me. And I said, okay, well, I finally finished undergrad because after all that fiddling around, it was about 9 years. And then my mother was like, are you ever going to graduate? And I was like, okay. So then I said, well, I'll go and I'll get a master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I was going through a divorce. And so one of the deans at the school, I was talking to him, and he was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm getting a master's degree in psychology and X, Y, and Z. And I said, I'm going through a divorce, so things are unstable, but I'm going to keep going to school. And so he actually told me, he said, I want you to go down to the student services and ask to speak to the director of the counseling center. Mm-hmm. He was like, you can't go through this alone. And I was like, what? Therapy? Me? I'm 26 years old. I'm like, hey, what? And I went down, and she was a Black lady, mm-hmm. Dr. Virginia Long, and she talked to me about 4 sessions about my divorce and all of that. And she said, it seems like you're making the right decision for you, and you got that figured out. What are you going to do with the rest of your career? I said, well, I'm getting a master's degree. And she said, that if you go into a doctoral program, you go into a 4 or 5 year program and you get your master's along the way and continue on to get your doctorate versus getting. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And so for the next 6 weeks, my homework from therapy with her was going to research programs and applying to a doctoral program. So I left my master's program after 1 year and went straight into a doctorate program. And as you said, it was all God ordained. My steps were ordered. I was like, who questions somebody because they're in a master's program? And they were like, no, if this is what you want to do, then and I think, I don't know if that would have happened if the dean who saw me and said, go on over there and talk to somebody, and the psychologists that I saw were both African Americans. They were both Black people. I don't know if that would have happened if it were someone else.
It wouldn't.
I don't know if that's the conversations that we would have been having. That's good for you. Nothing wrong with getting a master's degree, mm-hmm. but they saw something different. I think that God spoke through them and saw something different in me, and doors kept opening. But it was where I knew I needed to be from the beginning. Mm-hmm. This is what I was created to do.
So it all dawned on you when you finally got, oh, God knows what I'm talking about. And that's when you know you are in your purpose. I'm a firm believer that each and every one of us that are on the planet has a special gift. I don't care if 10 people got a special gift. You got a different kind of special. And that's what's important. And I went to the therapist, and I was going, and then she was pregnant. And I was like, is all this angst gonna have anything to do with the baby? Is the baby gonna come out loopy like we are because you're hearing all this stuff? And they said when you're pregnant, sing to the baby, talk to the baby, read to the baby. And then you sitting there stressing with stressful people. She said, oh no, I got this. And she never came back to the clinic. She said, I was destined to be a parent. It was my obligation and this was my mission, my assignment to become a parent. And this is why I'm taking all of my energy. And the last time I saw her, she must have been about 7 or 8 months pregnant. And I said, are you comfortable there? She said, I want to do it again. Oh, wow. And again. And I'm like, okay, she building her a baseball team. She knew what she knew what God had meant for her to do. And she was a learned therapist. And she was like, that's a good point, my love. But I'm gonna let them call me mother love. I'm gonna let them call me Mrs. Okay. So now when you went, and I did not know that you could have your master's degree and can move right into the doctoral program.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah.
I'd never heard that before. So
Mm-hmm.
how does that work? You said that you could skip over the master's program and just go from having your bachelor's, or you had to get your master's and then you go into it?
So it's so for a lot of clinical psychology programs, because of the depth of understanding of people they want to train you in, what they would prefer is if you go into a 4 or 5 year program and halfway through in year 2, you get a master's degree. And then you continue on the next 2 to 3 years and get your doctorate. So it's one long program versus going to a program, getting a master's, and then going into another one. You stay at the same school and you're trained in the same way. And that's the way that they do it for clinical psychology.
What's the difference? What is a clinical psychologist, and is that different from a regular psychologist?
So there are different types of psychologists. So a clinical psychologist is one who works with and studies, works with individuals, families, and children from a clinical perspective. They provide the therapy. So there are developmental psychologists. Those are ones who do research like on rats and in the laboratory and learn things from the laboratory. There are forensic psychologists. Those are individuals who might work with people who are just as involved in the court system and are expert witnesses. So there are different types of psychologists, but a clinical psychologist, we're trained to be therapists, to work in the room with the client and or to do research on and with and for people.
And that is so critical and so important. And she's also an author, and we'll get to that later. When it talk about being a trained psychologist for married couples, for divorcing couples, for the whole thing. And you have written a book called Dating with a Purpose, and this is called Dating with a Purpose: a single woman's guide to escaping no man land. Okay. People got relations, and then they got relationships, and they often don't know the difference between relation and relationship. Dr. Erica, explain to the people what the difference between that.
So a relation just means I'm in communication or connection with another person. A relationship means that we have agreed that we are connected in a specific way for a specific purpose, right? And so a lot of people nowadays, the young people call it a situationship rather than a relationship. They call it a situationship. So the situation, you in a situation ship. So
okay, that's a new one on me.
Okay. Situationship. And that is when individuals they are in relation with each other in some way that they have not defined, they have not communicated. A lot of times it might just be sexual, or we're friends with benefits and those kinds of things, which for a lot of people, that usually doesn't turn out too well, because oftentimes they think that they're on the same page, but somebody is on page 3 and somebody's on page 33. So right, it's that undefined, unexplained, unagreed upon way that we're going to interact and move.
So when you get that, and people come to you, I'm sure often, especially our people, because it's hard to get our people, it's hard to get your people to understand they need therapy. I already knew I needed therapy. I was in therapy when I was 14 years old, so I understand the mechanisms of it. And even though my therapist at the time said, "There's nothing wrong with you," I said, "But they said," he said, "There's nothing wrong with you." And I had to go see him on Saturday after school. Wow. And I told y'all I was in therapy as a teenager. That's why I know what's jumping up. And it was just, I wasn't going to do that. I just wasn't going to do that. And I said, well, I'm going to, and I stayed with him until I graduated from high school and went to college and found out I was wild and undisciplined and I had to get some order over myself. And so, and college will make or break it. Yes. College made me the woman I am today. I left my home a girl. I came back a woman. Yes. And it's either going to make you or break you. E. Groove says, situation. She knows situationship is people banging for nothing. Well, just tell us how you really feel. They said, she said they're banging for nothing, no commitment, no nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about when it's just relation and
Right.
not relationships, and
Exactly.
they don't take the next step. Okay, because you're a marriage therapist, I want to have you talked to people who were getting married and they wanted to get a prenuptial agreement?
You know, I've only had a couple of individuals who wanted to get a prenuptial agreement. One of them, they were scared to discuss it, but they both agreed that this was something that could happen. And then I had one couple where one of them did not want it, and the other one did want the prenuptial agreement. And they actually wound up not getting married.
Sometimes it work like that.
Sometimes.
This is not the person for you.
Yes.
And I've seen women in my life who know that he's the wrong guy. Why would you want to put yourself in a position like that? And you know it's the wrong guy. One of my friends, my dear friends, she wanted to get married, and she had never been married. No, she had been married once, I think. But anyway, this new guy that she was married, we sitting in the church. We didn't travel all the way across the country to go support her. We get to the church, everybody all gussied up. Dude stand up there and they asked, the preacher says, "Do you?" And he called the guy's name, and he just collapsed on the floor. He just passed out. I was like, oh, and she was sitting in the chair trying to revive him. I said, "No, you don't revive him. He ain't dead. I checked this boss. He ain't dead. Girl, get your stuff and let's go. This is not what you need to do. I'm going to marry him. I'm going to marry him." They was married for 3 months.
Oh my goodness.
But he fell out twice. I think he fell out 3 times. He fell out at the altar, then they brought him back, and then he fell out when they put him in the seat, and his leg just went down to the floor like this, you know. And then when he got up, the preacher had to actually marry them while they were sitting down. Can you believe that?
Was that a health condition or was it a?
No, he just passed out. She told me, she said, because as I said, "Honey, what happened?" She said he was just nervous about getting married. I'm like, that didn't upset you that he fell out twice? Because I was like, "Girl, come on, let's go. She married the man. They ain't last 120 days.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what a waste of energy and space. And if I was a petty person, I would have said, "You got married sitting down. I want my money back for the airplane tickets." But she was in enough pain as it was. And see, that's why God said, "Shut your mouth, bridle your tongue." And I had to put it out sometimes, put it not in it. And you talk about also newlywed couples, new and married African-American couples specifically. What is the biggest issue that you hear in your practice about couples not being able to gel or gelling and not being able to make it work?
I would say for a lot of them, it is not acknowledging their trauma, and also not knowing how to communicate. Becoming very defensive. So we really can't talk about anything because everything that you say to me, I take as an attack. If you tell me you want something or that you need something, I interpret that as you saying I'm not X or I'm not Y. And so I become defensive. So I would say coming in with unhealed trauma and unacknowledged trauma, and also difficulty communicating. And that means receiving and sending messages.
And people that are hurting don't want to hear constructive criticism.
Exactly.
They want you to say, "Dr. Erica, okay, this, that, and the 37, I want you to sign up, be on my side."
Right.
And they think that you see that you're supposed to be on my side, and you're in couples therapy. You know, is the mantra true that most breakups and divorces evolve around money? Because they say that's the biggest thing that breaks up marriages.
That there are a few things that break up marriage, and money can be one. But in this day and age, finances are very different than they were historically, and part of that is because women are making more and more money. So finances are one thing, but also, you know, parenting and the different ways that we parent each other, how we want to be parents with children, I would say extended family and other people being involved in the marriage are huge issues, whether it's in-laws or siblings or best friends, different people feeding into the marriage. There's like 6 different things that are leading causes to people divorcing: sex, and not just adultery or cheating, but even difference in sexual preferences, sexual desires, being able to talk about that. And to work through that. So there are about 6 different things that actually are leading causes of people getting divorced or contemplating getting divorced. But money can be a huge problem.
And when you say that the woman makes more money than the man, and I've heard men say, well, yeah, my wife makes more money than I do, and I feel intimidated. I'm like, you're a bobo head.
Mm-hmm.
Or a true bobo head. This woman has committed her life to be with you, and just because she makes more money than you, this is the word I really hate, and I might need to get some therapy from you. When men say, you emasculated me, I don't know where that goes, because I'm not a man. I don't know if anybody could come up and say to me, well, mother love, I don't like your femininity. And so I just could not understand how men say women emasculate them. Have you heard that in your practice?
Yes, and I hear it.
Yeah.
Yes, and I hear it. I hear it a lot. I don't like to put
labels on people.
Yeah, and ascribe certain behaviors to all men and certain behaviors to all women. Right, but men can have very fragile egos sometimes, and sometimes women can have very sharp tongues, and so that thing can get real sharp sometimes. But this idea of emasculation, I think that a lot of it, what they're using the term emasculation, but I think what they're really trying to say is you hurt my feelings.
And not being able to say that, because men grow up and they don't have feelings. They got feelings, but you're not allowed to display them. I come from a family of 6. We had 4 girls and 2 boys. And our father died when my mother was 30, and she had 6 little kids. And she used to tell us all the time, that's why your father dropped dead on me, because y'all crazy. He left me here with all 6 of y'all crazy people. So we had that guilt coming on us. And when you said in-laws, talk about the importance of people keeping other people out of their relationships, because you could have that one sitting on your shoulder, girl, you need to leave him. He ain't no good for you. And you hear about him, and next thing you know, she done hooked up with your ex-boyfriend or your ex-husband. But this is the same chick that says she was your friend. That don't count. I'm like, really? And infidelity is a big problem. Where do you see the intimacy? Because we're gonna talk about your new book too, that addresses this very thing, that they don't want to want to be intimate with each other. And this is my thing. You hit on several subjects that I think people need to go to couples therapy, or go to your pastor, go to your rabbi, go to whomever you need to go to, sit down with a neutral party to talk out your situations, what is going to break you. And I am of the mindset that a lot of people married married because of the pomp and circumstance, married because they want to be married, not married because it's an institution, not to be entered into lightly. Then they want to go all off and do their own thing and all this other kind of crazy. Well, I shouldn't call it crazy, because to each his own, and we all evolve. And in that evolution, when men say she emasculates me, I don't understand that. You said it first. Men sometimes, we just gotta say something. Men have very fragile egos. And what about the dominant men who want these women? I've talked to several sports figures and a few, people out in the world. What attracts you to a woman? And I was really surprised about this. This doctor, he was a emergency room doctor. I remember he said, I want my women thin with no breast. And I was like, never heard that one before. So me. Well, what's that mean? He said, I want my wife to look as close to a boy as she can. Okay, see, it wasn't just me with the face. You made the face. This is what he said. And his wife was tall and thin, and she dressed feminine, but she looked like she had clothes on her. And I just asked her one day, I said, baby, what's the matter? She said her husband had told her this after 2 or 3 kids, that he wanted her to look as close to a boy as she could get. Now, if that don't put something up in your head, how does one deal with that? Well, she divorced him, but when you don't want to get a divorce, and isn't it better to have these all rules and regulations put down before you even make a commitment like that?
Yeah, I think you need to have those conversations before you even think about getting married. I don't know. That's his preference. People have all kinds of kinks, and they need to have those conversations about, their sexual proclivities and desires before you get married, and a lot of other things, especially around your values and your desires. You said something earlier about, people who get married and then they go off and do their own thing. But one of the things that I know is that a lot of people focus on the wedding and not the marriage.
Oh, that is so. Oh,
and
that's hold my mule. You didn't just split it out there, and they're don't even think about the marriage.
They don't think about the marriage. They think about that one day, and now it's all the Instagrammable proposal. So now we need the big proposal, and then we need the Instagrammable. Then now we need the Instagrammable wedding. So it's all about the wedding day, but not thinking about the investment in the day after the wedding and the month after the wedding and the year after the wedding. And so we have to change that mindset. I see someone put in the chat. They said a lot of Black men especially won't participate in couples therapy. There are a lot of men just in general and women who won't participate in couples therapy. But if you know that that's what you desire, then that needs to be one of your standards. Like, I knew when I got married the second time after my divorce that I was not going to get married to someone that we didn't go to premarital counseling. And so when I mentioned that to the guy that I was dating, who became my husband, he also, this would have been his second marriage as well. And he also said, he was like, oh yeah, I want to go to, he was like, because I don't want that to happen again. Because one of the things that I shared with him, which a lot of people don't know, is in the US right now, 50% of first marriages end in divorce. 65% of second marriages end in divorce, and 80% of third marriages end in divorce. And the reason is that people are not doing the work that they need to do before they enter into these long-term commitments.
And you got to realize this is a long-term commitment. It is it is an institution not to be into lightly. Exactly. And I think a lot of couples, unfortunately, don't really understand what those vows mean, and what that commitment means. And I was looking at what you just said. Let's look at the big picture. Even 20 years down the road, my husband and I have been together. We celebrated our anniversary October the 8th. 50 years. And people used to ask me when they say, "Hey, mother love, you got that same husband?" I was like, I ain't not supposed to switch him out, And when you get them and they fit, all of them not gonna fit. When you get them and they fit, you hold on to that and you work through that. And people always say, "I want to have a marriage like you, or Brother Kennedy." I'm like, no, you don't. You are never you wouldn't last a month. You wouldn't last a month with somebody like my husband. And I'm an outspoken person, and when he tell me to be quiet, I'll shut up. They want to know what kind of stuff he got in his tone, that can make her be. And I told him, first time I had him on the radio with me, and we were talking, and I should have knew it. It really wasn't a mistake. It was a mistake. I said, he just loved it. And he said to me on the Mother Love show, he said, "Okay, wait a minute, Mother Love, be quiet." And everybody said, "You was talking to your husband." I said, "How y'all know that was my husband?" Because ain't nobody gonna make you talk. Not so. And it's important that you think about that. You don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. We say this to each other. Well, I say it to him. I say, "I love you today. Tomorrow could be a different story. Don't press it." And when you get to be our age, you want to make sure it fits. And we're still growing. Yeah. We are still growing. He told me the only way I would leave him is in a pine box, and he was gonna bury me in the backyard. So I told him, "Well, can I have a funeral now before I die, so I can see who come?" Crazy stuff like that. And so people gotta be, and everybody thought we were never gonna make it because we are complete opposites. And we are still complete opposites, except he didn't learn he on this funny kick now that he didn't hit the big one. the big one in one. And so it's important because you got to really think about, do I want to wake up every day with this person? And even as long as we've been together, there are days when I say, I'm doing pretty good, God. He didn't smother me in my sleep. Oh, I know my husband gonna get right into heaven. He gonna, brother, we've been waiting on you. Come on, we know your life. Even if I'm right behind him, I'm far behind him. He gonna think, no, you sit right there in the mercy seat because you got some explaining to do, chickie. I'm trying to clean it up. We gotta try to clean it up and see. Now, do you think you got it right this time?
Oh, I know I got it right this time. This one right here. This one right here. This one.
Keeper.
Huh? Oh, he's a keeper. That's it right there.
I just like the way your face light up when you even think about it. I hope you just lit up at Christmas tree. That is so cool. Where did you guys meet?
Oh, well, you know what? We actually met online.
Now I know two couples, and one of the couples got married on my birthday.
Oh.
And I thought they were paying homage to me and my birthday. They were like, no, this is when we could get the justice of the peace or whoever. I was like, there go your bubble bust.
Well, we got married close to your anniversary. Our anniversary is October 2nd.
How about that? And how many, you just married him? Are you still fresh?
No. This is year 14. We've been together 15 years.
See, how about that? Don't say it work, don't work. It work when you make it work.
That's it. I'm like that this one right here, this it.
See, sometimes you gotta kiss a few frogs.
Yes.
To get to that prince.
That's right.
I ain't never had no problem with kissing frog skin. Thank you for praying. Love you, mean to see you. Bye-bye. And there we go. I was talking to this guy. See, the internet is crazy. This guy I had known in my childhood, right? And you could tell when they flirting with you and what have you, And he just wasn't my cup of tea. I told him straight up, you're not my cup of tea. You're not that guy. And so this was maybe a year or so ago. I get a direct message.
Yeah.
And I know how that worked, right? And so when I saw his name come up and he used his nickname, I knew exactly who he was. He called me up and said, okay, you've been with your husband for like 100 years. It's time for you to leave him and come and be my wife. He ain't never called back. And I don't know why they always wait for my husband to leave me. People just don't have respect for your relationships. And how do you deal with that? Or can you give us some, pearls of wisdom on how you deal with when there's a breakup? Who gets the friends? Or, what if you fell in love with your in-laws and now you divorcing their son? Where does that dynamic go when this happens?
Oh, it's so challenging. It's so challenging. What I would say is the couple has to decide what's best for them. Mm-hmm. I know some couples who divorce and break up and they actually remain friends and in the same friend group. I know some people who are like, it's best for me to cut all ties and move forward. I know even for me in my first marriage, I was very close to my in-laws and extended family because we married so young and we were married for a long time. So, we dated. I got married the first time when I was 19. So, and we stayed married all through my 20s. So I knew his family. We were, we started dating when I was 16 and he was 18. So, we were in a, so I knew everyone. It was very difficult. And the breakup wasn't horrible. Like we didn't have a horrible relationship. If I knew back then what I know now, we could have made it work. Mm-hmm. But I was young. I didn't understand. His parents had been married until his father passed away. Mm-hmm. I was raised by a single parent. I didn't understand marriage. So there was a lot there, but it wasn't bad. Mm-hmm. And he was a good guy. I just was at a point where I said, you're a good guy, but not the guy for me. Mm-hmm. So we could have remained friends and I could have remained friends with my mother-in-law, but I chose not to. And the reason that I chose not to, not in anger, and I even talked to my mother-in-law and I talked to him. I said, if I had remained friends, he never would have moved on. And he was a good guy. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you need to have a relationship free from me. Mm-hmm. But like my mother-in-law would invite me to barbecues and, he was dating again. And I was like, that woman is gonna, feel like I had seen like his siblings have babies, so I was auntie, and I'm like, if I walk in there, this woman is not going to have a chance to breathe. She's not going to have a chance to actually get her rightful place. And they got married and they've been together and they had children and everything. But I said, she needs to have her rightful place.
Right.
And she can't have that with me. Now, I still would call his mother and just check on her and see how she was doing and would see her occasionally, but I didn't go to family functions and that kind of thing. So, you really have to make a decision. And I wanted to make a grown-up decision, and I wanted him to have a life because I really cared about him. And that's the best thing that I could have done, was move myself out of the way.
And do you think you guys just outgrew each other?
I think the term outgrow, I think we grew in different directions. That we didn't know enough that we were supposed to grow like this. So he was growing as an individual. I was growing as an individual. And by the time we recognized it, I couldn't find my way back.
See, that's what it is. And you work to try to find your way back.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a little break right quick, and I'm just gonna let people know where they can find Mother Love on Facebook at The Mother Love Show, on X at The Mother Love Show, on YouTube at Mother Love Show, on TikTok at The Mother Love Show, on Instagram at Mother Love Show, and on Indeed at The Mother Love Show. So you got two Mother Love shows at the bottom and at the top, and the ones in the middle are Mother Love Show. So I hope you tune in. I hope you talk to your friends and family. Let them know that we have a fundraiser going for Mother Love to get a new studio, because I didn't know people missed us being in the studio like they miss us being in the actual studio. And so I hope you log on, click that, what is it called? The Cash App QR code. We are raising funds to get a new studio. It don't have to be a new studio, but get into a physical building again. And see, you think with all this technology, people would have been cool. We just sit and chit chat. We don't even have to wear pants. I don't wear pants. I'm not wearing pants now. See, you laugh because I got on a skirt. See, and we're raising money to help Mother Love in the show. It's really, I am the facilitator of this. Yeah. That's all I do, is make sure that our guests have a safe place, a safe space. Now, okay, I won't put you on blast on this until you could give me a quick answer, but I will be talking to you lately because I need some help. I always need help. So how do you, get into a conversation with, the husband come to therapy, the wife come to therapy, and do you have like the wife is in a therapy session, then the husband is in a therapy session, and they do a couple session together?
No, for most, the couple comes in together. If they're coming in for a couple issue, then we're going to see them as a couple together initially. Now, there are some times where we might say one or both of them need their own individual therapy first, but a lot of times, no, we work with a couple together as a couple.
Yeah. Who's more receptive? No, I want to ask, how do you break through on either one of the couples that are sitting there like, I'm just forced to be here? Didn't I look like Chumley when I made that face? I don't want to sit here. This is what she wanted to do. I'm in therapy because that's what she wanted to do. And you, the therapist, how do you approach somebody like that to open up?
Typically, what I will do is I will ask or start with the person who's more resistant, and I will ask them what is their opinion of how the state of their marriage. Okay? And most of the times they're honest, and then I'll ask them, do they think whoever is resistant? I'll ask them, do they think that they could get the marriage that they want by themselves?
That's a good. And do they stick to like a?
Most of them will say no, and then, or if they do want to be, if they just want to be obstinate and say, well, yeah, then I'll say, what have you tried so far, and is it working? Well, because if it was working, you wouldn't be sitting here.
See?
If you could do it, you wouldn't be paying me to get it together. So I try to come from the perspective of, if you want this relationship and you see that it's not working, let's try this. You haven't tried this before. So let's try this and see. what we can do. And sometimes people will turn around, and truthfully, sometimes they won't. But
Mhm.
a lot of times the people who are just won't turn around and are not open, they already have one foot out the door anyway.
So that's why I asked earlier about the
Mhm.
prenuptial agreement. Janie is on the phone and she says, I'm friends with all my exes. And she got a lot of exes. We found that out. We were calling her name. We say, Janie, Buford, Jackson, Smith. And I just stopped, I stopped looking at trying to figure it out. And the thing that I kept saying, you don't need to keep marrying somebody. You don't have to be married. She said, oh, if they coming up here with this, oh, they gonna be my husband. I was like, okay. So, and this is too funny. She said she is friends with all her exes. And you said that people can be exes and still be friends.
They
You
can.
still friend with
They,
your ex-husband and his
uh-huh.
wife? Are you still, you just cut ties completely with after you divorced him? And that was like a good thing to do because, like you said, she got to find her space
Exactly.
in that life with him.
Exactly. And again, it wasn't out of animosity. There was no anger. I just stepped back and I was like, you need to go on with your life. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to take up that space. She needed
Mm-hmm.
to find, her, like I said, but I speak to my ex-mother-in-law, and just would check on how she's doing, but I wouldn't do family events. I'm not going to sit on the phone and talk to my ex-husband. He needs to have his life. Right. And then when I started dating and got married, my slate was clean. There was no men hovering around me that I used to date or that I used to sleep with. The slate was clean. You can come into a clean slate and we can start our relationship off on a solid foundation.
So now you've been married to this husband, the keeper, for 14 years, 15 years.
Well,
And
14 years.
I always thought, and I tell people that women this all the time, and guys, you want to have a longevity in your marriage and still have love, because you can have longevity in your marriage. You're like, he looked funny. Why you
Exactly.
doing like that? Why you got? And it's every little thing, and they know it's not every little thing. It's every little thing you put in this big jar of issues and problems and trauma that you got going. And I
Right.
always thought what you did is so amicable, because you'll see people get divorced, remarried, and either wife go ballistic or the husband go ballistic. If I can't have her, ain't nobody gonna have her
Right. Right.
mentality. And they have no concept of how to move on. And
Right.
sometimes it can get violent.
Yes.
When you talk, and it can. And they said the biggest abusers of women are somebody that they know.
Yes.
And I just don't understand how you could treat somebody that you know like that. You can't take somebody and you beating them on, and then come in with a steak and some flowers and say, "Oh, baby, I ain't gonna never do it again. Put the steak on your eye." What's she gonna do with a steak on her eye? Then she get ready to leave. My mother was a social worker, God rest her soul. And she would oftentimes have to get up in the middle of the night to go remove a baby from the environment. Sometimes, the baby and the woman, away from this volatile situation. And he kept screaming out the door, "I won't do it again. I won't do it again. I won't do it again." And my mother told her client, do not turn around and look at him. You keep stepping, you keep walking, because he gonna be in your rear view mirror. And that's what she did. And just to watch her heal from all that anger that was put on her. And what
Yeah.
did it say? Hurting people hurt people. So
Yes.
you got to get to do you have to get to the hurting people first, or the people that hurt the hurting person?
The person who's doing the hurting, we can start right there, because sometimes you won't be able to get to like if it was their parent or somebody else. So you can work with what and who is in front of you. That's the best way to go.
Now, let's talk about your Thomas. You've written several books and you got a new one out now. First one is Dating with a Purpose, a single woman's guide to escaping no man's land. So you got to put that in there with the seasoned citizen, not just the single women. What? Okay, you said the guide to go to escaping no man's land. What's the foundation of that? Because I know single people are just catching double hockeys. They say women are so uppity, and they lie on Instagram. That's why I'm like, oh, you met him online, so you knew it. Did he look like the picture when he showed up?
He sure did. Actually, he looked better than his pictures. I
Oh,
was
hey!
like, somebody help you with your profile.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna respond to pictures. I was like, who? And my brother actually was like, "Well, Erica, just give it a chance." And I was like, "Oh, you look so much better than those pictures you put on your profile." So.
See, I bet you to him that was it. That was the magic thing. Oh, that is wonderful.
Yes.
The thing I was gonna say is, I tell people because I'm like I'm a psychologist in the hood. They too they go pay a therapist, so they come to me, and I'm straight no chaser. And oftentimes I tell women, you can't come in here with a list full of, okay, this is what I expect, and I think it's important that you write down a list of what you expect, what you're willing to do, how are you willing to change to make sure the marriage works. Because sometimes this over here worked for you as a single person, but this over you as a fiance or a wife, you don't do that behavior anymore. And so people say this. And I want to get your take. Oh, don't think you ain't just getting away from this. I need some psychological counseling. Women that say, you complete me. That mean? Because maybe I've been kind of crude with it. And so what do you think when somebody says he completes me or she completes me, but we're going to sit at the table incomplete? I don't understand, man. I'm just asking. You the one with the brains and the beauty.
Sadly, I think that when people say that, they're looking for something outside of themselves to feel something that can only come from within. Right? So they're looking for an external validation, external self-esteem, which is only something that can come from within the person. When you get with an individual, you are a whole person. You're 100% a being. They're 100% a being. Now, you might be unhealthy. You might have some challenges you need to overcome. You might have some trauma you need to come, but you come in as a whole person. And so are they. No one can complete you because you're not incomplete. So to look for someone else to do something that you need to do on the inside is never going to work out well.
See, that's when you have to let them know you got to do the work.
Yes.
You have to make the decisions if you're going to do the work.
Yes.
Anybody ever said, I don't care who you talk to, Dr. Erica Holmes, I don't care if you listen to Maya Angelou, you listen to Iyanla Van Zandt, she don't smack me, Iyanla Van Zandt, you got to be ready to do the work.
That's right.
If it were easy, if it were pretty, everybody could do it.
That's right.
Oftentimes, you'll get people and see people and, you know that they're in pain, but it's this lady I know. And she used to be my friend, but she just kind of went off on the deep end of society. And she decided to cut me loose as a friend. All I said, and I've been knowing this chick since we were like 11 or 12 years old. And she said the craziest thing to me, and it really did hurt me because I thought we were friends. And how do you deal with the friends that you don't like when what you did like them because you were friends, and then they get married to somebody that you don't like?
Well, at that point, I think you need to have boundaries, and you and the friend have to decide if and how your friendship will continue. What that will look like. You can be friends with someone and never interact with their spouse. You can decide what that friendship is going to look like. But sometimes, like, I've known people who have been friends with someone who got into a relationship with someone who was abusive, someone who was controlling, someone who just treated them badly, and they couldn't handle it. So they had to step away from the friendship because they couldn't bear to see their friend being treated in that way. And I think there are some pros and some cons to that. Like, you have to do what you need to do to take care of yourself. So if you can't handle it, if it causes you too much anxiety and all of that, then you might need to step away. But also, the person who's in that situation, sadly, when they're in that situation, that's when they need friends the most. So, there's two sides to that coin.
And we get that. There's nothing. I mean, it was so disheartening for me. I said earlier, my mother was a social worker, and she would get me up and take me with her, and I watched her remove babies, from the mother's arms, and she got to get the mother on this arm, she got the baby in this arm, she's trying to keep this person abreast, and she was smart. She always took the police with her when it was in an abusive relationship. Oh, and they called my mother everything but a child of God, and she said, "Oh, they're not talking about me. Don't even think you're talking about me." And she got her to a safe place, got her situated in one of the well, I don't know what they call them, where you send abusive women and their children to a shelter. That's the word. Get them safe. She was there for like 3 days. Fourth day, couldn't find her nowhere on the premises. Didn't know what was going on. So my mother had a hunch. She said, "Let me call their house." She answered the phone. She went right back into that. And is there a way that you can let abusive people, because women abuse men too, don't get me wrong, we had to go get a woman out the house. She went to jail because she was in there beating on her husband, slapping him up, throwing pots and stuff at him and glasses and everything. Her house was a mess. My mother went in there and got this guy out of that situation. And so I don't want people to think it's mostly men who abuse women, but women do abuse men as well, and that needs to be acknowledged. And men don't want to talk about that. Have you ever had a client that said he was in an abusive relationship?
I have not. I've worked in domestic violence shelters, and most of the time there's mutual combat, so they both are fighting each other. And I will say this to the story about the woman who went back. When working with people who are victims or survivors of domestic violence, the research shows that they tend to go leave 7 or 8 times before they leave permanently. So going back to the relationship after things cool off, like you said, she was there for 2, 3, 4 days, is very common. So that relapse, if you will, should be expected. They tend to leave and go back 7 or 8 times before they leave permanently.
Or they leave in a body bag.
Yes.
One of my friends, God rest their soul, her husband was on drugs. They got 3 kids, and she was working her tuchus off because he had got strung out on drugs. And people always think, "Oh, that's not gonna happen to me. That's not gonna happen to me. It's never gonna happen to me. I'm in control of this." Well, he was out of control. Because he would come in the house and steal her money out of pocketbook, steal the rent money, whatever. And he would be gone for like 2 or 3 days. He came back and she wouldn't give him any money. And she told him, "Look, the kids are upstairs asleep. You need to go somewhere else, because I'm not having this, and she stood her ground. This guy snatched her out of their front door, killed her, put her in the back of the van, murdered his wife and the mother of his children, put her in a van, and he had been riding around. He happened to stop like at a school parking lot, one of the school parking lots, and he had been sitting there like overnight. So the neighbors in the community, they called the police and said that van been here for like 3 days, and we don't know what the deal is. They came up, he was still asleep. He woke him up, and when he rolled down the window, if you've ever smelled dying flesh, that's you know what it is. And when they said when the police officer rolled down, we still have rolled down the window, cars and buses. When they rolled down the window, they said the smell was so rancid. They went in the back, and her body had already started decomposing. And they asked me, said, "What happened? Why are you riding around with a dead body?" "Oh, that's my wife back there. She ain't dead." That's the crazy that them kids have to live with. And they lost their mother and their father. And they told them, you're going to be in a mental facility until you're, until you die, because he had to go to the facility. He went to a mental health facility. And they said he's going to be there for the rest of his life because he killed her. And he told him, he said, "She ain't dead. She ain't dead." I don't know what he was on, but nonetheless, I have seen relationships be that abusive that they're willing to take another person's life.
Yeah. That's the last act of control.
And it's almost like, what they say to rape victims. And that's what they said that, to another friend of mine. They told her, just get over it. He'll be all right. Okay, so what? He come back in. Don't let him back in if you don't think you're gonna get a beating. And it never ends that way.
Yeah.
It seems like they can never get abused. Jamie says, what do you do? What do you say to a man who smokes in the house when you're getting treatment for cancer? Get out. Okay, yes. Okay, Dr. Holmes. That's why I'm just mother love. That was Miss Janie's question. What do you say to a man who smokes in the house when you're getting treatment for cancer? What do you say to a man? See, that's something.
There's so many things that I want to say that I will not say. I
can almost read your mind, girl, because the look on your face was like, no, don't be trying to get me in no trouble. I was a smoker. Did you ever smoke?
No.
Okay. I was a cigarette smoker for 20 years. And when I moved out to California, I quit smoking back in 1989. And I hadn't quit smoking yet. My husband made a comment to me, and I had smoked the whole time I knew him before we came out here to California. And he would, this is even before it was a ban against smoking inside of any building. Mm-hmm. And so he told me one day, girl, it was a wake-up call. And he knows I like to be kissed every day. And he just one day, he said, you know what, baby, I love you, but kissing you is like licking a dirty ashtray. And I was like, oh, yeah, we getting off of this because I want him to lick me and taste like candy. I put one ashtray, one cigarette out. I put it in the farthest corner of our house, so it would take me an effort to get there to get a cigarette. Well, by the time I got halfway there, I forgot I wanted a cigarette. And I just kept doing that and kept doing that and kept doing. And when I told him I was going to quit, when I quit smoking a cigarette, I know people thought it was a health weed. I was too cheap to pay $2.69 for a pack of cigarettes. And people can tell when you smoke. And if he doesn't have enough respect for you and you getting cancer treatments, you need to put that guy out wherever he got to go. Just pack his stuff and put him on, let him go out there in the street because he has no respect for your health and no respect for you are asking and letting him know that this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable.
Yeah.
And people are so afraid to speak up about it. I said, let me do it. Ain't know what they're gonna do. Hit me. What they're gonna do? Can't fire me. No. And people are so afraid to speak up. And oftentimes they need somebody else to speak up for them. Have you, as a psychologist, have you ever had to go to court for one of your clients, for whatever they got into trouble with, to be like that expert witness?
I have not done expert witness testimony, but I have gone to court with a couple of clients that I've had. But the clients that I've gone to court with have been child clients that either were in abusive situations or they themselves had been arrested for a situation. And I gave testimony about their character and that kind of thing, but not an expert witness. But I do want to say something about the person smoking in the house and the other person going through cancer treatment. What I will say is that you can't control someone else's behavior, but you can control yourself. And if they won't stop, if they aren't invested in your health and your life, you need to be. And so you need to separate yourself in some way, whether that's him, I don't know the financial situation, whether that's him leaving or you going to stay somewhere else where you can be safe and be in an environment that can help you to live. You need to do that. But you can't control somebody else. But what you can do is create boundaries for yourself and do what you need to do in order to live. My mother died of cancer. So cancer is not something to play with. If you want to live, you need to say, bump anybody else that's not supporting me. And I need to do what I need to do to get healthy for all the other people in my life who love me.
And you have to put down the gauntlet. You have to say, this is not going to occur anymore. And when you brought up, you don't know if, she's the breadwinner, and I could never let me just ask you about that part. The whole money issue. Why do men feel intimidated about a woman, about his wife or his girlfriend or whatever, and their cohabitate, gets so offended or intimidated by the fact that you make more money than him?
Because the United States is a capitalistic, patriarchal society. And from birth, men are taught that money equals power. and that men are supposed to be in power. And the more money you have, the more power you have. And that is the way that men are socialized. So when a woman brings in more money, that means that he then, even if she doesn't feel that way, right, he feels that his power is threatened, but he's been told all his life that money is power. So your job is to get more money so you can be in more power. So and that's not just in the home, that's at work, that's in every, right? And so they have to fight mentally against that message that's been beat into them for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Even if she doesn't feel that way, every day he's coming home feeling like I'm less of a man because a man is supposed to.
Okay, I'll go with that. That sounds like a crop of see. I'm just all wrong. I always made more money than my husband. That just has never been an issue with us. Okay, when I came to California, I told him, I said, okay, honey, I'm gonna need you to sign a prenuptial agreement. He looked at me and he just bust out laughing. He said, no, honey, that's before we get married. You can't get no prenup. He said, I'm going to get it all when you're dead. I'm going to put you in a pine box and you're going out in the backyard. I mean, how you going to get mad at that? How you going to get mad at that? I also told him one time, my girlfriend and them like Janie and all them, hey, Joe, I see you on the feed. Janie said, physical abuse and emotional and mental abuse is the same thing. Persons that being hurt should leave. We think about that.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
I ain't never been in an abusive relationship. A guy shook me when I was in college, and I jumped up and went bat crap crazy. And I had the nerve to be frying chicken in his apartment. I mean, the chicken grill. It's the one I even got my fingers. He shook me and threw me on the bed. I was like, oh, you done lost your rabbit mind. Oh, this how you want to play? And he stalked out, stalked past the room and everything. I said, I got to go get my chicken off and turn it over. And he was like, I picked a hot cast iron skillet up. I do not remember putting on a oven mitt or nothing. And he was walking in the living room and he had this big giant plate glass window. And he said one thing too many to me. And I took this hot grease and flung it at him. Okay, I didn't think through that the grease could get all over the furniture and stuff. And when I threw it, he ducked and it hit the plank, hit the window. And he was more concerned about listen. He was more concerned about the dent that the skillet put in the car and all the chicken grease that went on the windshield, and he got to replace that plate glass window. And I said, you think I'm gonna pay? He told everybody on campus I was crazy. She crazy.
No, he was crazy for putting his hands on you.
And that just does not work. Last whooping I got was from my daddy. From a man was from my daddy. My daddy been dead. My daddy been dead. Pretty much, I was 10 when he died. And my mother said, you don't let no man put his hands on you. Only way he could he might put his hands on you once. You make sure it don't be a second time. And then they thought I was crazy. I'll cut you till you draw back a nub. Whatever was gonna get him up off of me. And men only hit you if you allow them to. And if you're scared that he's going to leave and, you don't have a bank account, you don't get a job, you have no foundation, you don't even get did enough to get a social security check, it's time for you to leave. And when you leave something that's dirty and ugly and you trust God, God can make that press you down, press it hard, and make you somebody you didn't even know existed in you. And I think we lose a lot of our creative people from abuse.
Yeah, we do. We most definitely do.
And we got to know where to put something. Let's talk about your books, because she's a very learned author, a speaker, trained relationship specializing in couples, therapy, intimacy, let's talk about the infidelity. Because people always say if you cheat once, you're going once a cheater, always a cheater. Is that really a true thing, or is that a misnomer?
That's a misnomer. Mm-hmm. There are different reasons and ways that people cheat. Mm-hmm. So that's not always true. There are some people who actually do kind of get caught up in a specific moment in time, and they make a bad decision in that moment in time. There are some people who are serial infidels. They cheat anytime, anywhere that they can get it. There are some people who the cheating came out of an emotional connection that they didn't realize was happening. So there are different reasons. So the first thing you have to do is assess the nature of the infidelity. How did it happen? When did it happen? Is there an emotional attachment or entanglement there? So not necessarily. There are some people, men and women, who make a mistake. There are some people, men and women, who will lay down with everything they got breath.
Oh Lord.
So you first have to assess, like, how did this happen? When did it happen? For some people, they cheated once, and again, it's because they got caught up. They went on a business trip and they had some drinks and was laughing with a coworker, and things got out of hand. They didn't know when and how to pull back. So that's not always the case.
But that's a decision that this is supposed to be an adult. That's the decision that an adult ought to be able to make a decision for that. And I know that people could do that. I mean, and I know it, and they'll tempt you and everything, but then you don't remember what your vows are. That should be where this is not a mistake. Okay, I'm married to and listen, I am a serial flirter. I flirt with the babies. I flirt with the kids. And see, I look at flirting as, light-hearted banter back and forth. It has nothing to do with intimacy, because you can, do that with anybody. And that's just a gift that God has given me. But when they see, I don't go for that. Oh, my panties accidentally fell off. And, I accidentally fell into her vagina and it was a bad, first don't get so drunk you lose your space. Do not consume alcohol to the point this was a mistake. I'd never did it. Well, why would you do it? And then they start thinking, oh, I can get away with this. Oh, I've seen it happen. I go to conventions all the time, and I see these men sneaking off with that. And there are women out there, especially women of the, even the early girls. That's what I call the morning prostitutes. They work conventions. They come in and looking all fine and smelling all good. They get that old guy up into their room and rob him blind.
Yeah.
And who you gonna tell? You can't tell your wife that you got robbed. What was you doing without your underwear on?
Right.
That's just, to me, that's not a mistake. And that's something that, and to say that was something that you didn't expect to happen. Liquor don't lie. You get them drunk, you blow something in their face, you show them that, that cute, your cute little walk and everything. Oh, it did it again, y'all. Can you still hear me, Dr. Erica?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, they'll come back and give us video. See, that's just so country. Because you said there are different types of infidelity. What?
No, uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you said that there are different types of infidelity.
Yeah,
it's not just cheating. What is another sign of infidelity if than cheating?
No. I said there are different reasons why or how it happened. And I'm not saying that it's right if it's a one-time thing or you do it all the time. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is there are couples that recover from that. But whether it's one time at a convention or you got drunk or you just sleeping with everybody, none of that negates the fact that there are consequences for your decisions. So it wasn't a mistake, it was a decision. So there are consequences for your decisions. Now, believe it or not, there are many couples for whom infidelity is not a deal breaker. So there are some couples who will say, if you cheat once, the marriage is over. But there are some couples for whom infidelity is not a deal breaker and they want to work through it.
That's something that I did not know, because I suppose, if you love somebody enough, you'll work through it. That's when they need couples therapy, don't you think? Because they have committed adultery and have been cheating.
Yes. Or they come to a decision within themselves. I mean, isn't that what Jada Pinkett and Will Smith were talking about with her entanglement? I mean, people and for some people, for different couples, they're different deal breakers.
Okay.
So for some people, they can have an entanglement and they go to therapy or do something, and they're okay with it.
So you can't get with it. You can't get with it. So I done kept my husband busy, so busy he ain't got time to be trying to fool with no woman other than me. And that's part of what I wanted to say is when we're talking about, you know, going into the marriage, having your whole list of what you need and seeing, you know, we made a list. What will you tolerate? What is a deal breaker? And like you said, some people infidelity is not a deal. It's not a deal breaker. You know, like I told my husband, I said, you know, if I ever find out that you've been with somebody else, that's gonna be it. Then I got about at my age now, I'm like, if you ever found somebody else, and just make sure she do dishes and the laundry, you know, I'm cool with that. See, you laugh. Women always laugh. Men be like, that ain't funny. Because I told you, screw the maid. I don't care. Just make sure she passed her childbearing years, and then you really can't tell. Because look, my grandmama, rest her soul, she had a baby at 47.
Whoa.
Came out healthy as a horse. Well, you know, back in the day, they didn't care nothing about when you was, you know, how old you were. They just, you know, want to get the thing done. And so when you see people, and when I see people like that, what? Because can I refer them to you?
Yeah. Look, it depends.
Okay.
It depends.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can, and I have a whole referral network as well. So if I can't see them, I have other very good, very excellent therapists and psychologists who I work with that I could also refer them to.
That's good. So what do you see as the need besides needing more African American therapists? How, if somebody wanted to go into that field, what would you recommend them to do and why? Why did you do this? Why do you do this?
I would say if there's someone who wants to go into this field, I would say get a mentor. I think that's really important. Get someone else who, if they're African American, if they're Black, get someone else who you can talk to, who can provide you with the information that you would need, who could help you make decisions, because it's different for us. Like this field, nor higher education was created for us. And so there are a lot of different ways that we can not succeed. There are a lot of different ways where this path can be much harder than it needs to be. So I would say reach out to therapists, whether they're master's level or doctoral level, therapists that you might know, have conversations. If you're in school now, undergrad now, have conversations with your faculty members and get therapy yourself. Don't go into this field if you have not, don't make the decision to go into this field if you have not done therapy yourself.
Now that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, Edna. You just ain't nothing. You ain't just another pretty face in the room. You're not resting on your good looks. And how long have you been? You're a clinical psychologist, yes? Okay. Can you prescribe? Do they get medication when you're? Okay.
No, that's a psychiatrist.
Oh, okay. See.
Yeah. So a psychiatrist has gone to medical school and they specialized in medical school and psychiatry versus heart surgery.
Okay, I want to ask this about. We see these commercials on television all the time about infant stress, where they got this whole chart that says it's a different kind of mechanism and different kind of learning in a child's brain that will trigger whatever it is that they're triggering. And you know, and you said you let me get it. Do you treat kids as well?
A huge part of my early years was working with children.
And that's hard for a kid, you think?
Yeah, extreme stress is really hard for children. And it's not that it's a different mechanism than what we have as adults. It's that their brain is developing, right? So when a child is born, the back part of the brain and the middle part basically is finished forming by the time they're around 5. But the frontal part, which is responsible for like logic, planning, organization, higher order thinking, this develops until you're around 25 years old. So when you're exposed to extreme stress, trauma that impacts the development of your brain. The mechanisms in your brain go from learning to survival.
Mm-hmm.
And so it slows down the frontal part of your brain, so it impacts decision making, so that's why impulse control. And
Mm.
so it's more damaging to children because their brains are still malleable, it's still trying to form, it's still trying to become.
And so it is harder for children to be in adult situations.
Oh yes.
And I remember when we were growing up, the elders would say, if you piped up into a grown folks conversation, the elders would say, stay in a child's place.
That's
And
right.
and you got checked right then.
That's
When you
right.
see our youth coming up like they are, a lot of them are disjointed. A lot of them feel disconnected. And, we got the internet and we can instant message and we could, get to you like right away. Do you think it's helping the kids or hurting the kids?
I think it's both and. I
Mhm.
think it helps them because they have access to a lot of information and also access to connections.
Mhm.
I think it hurts them when they're doing it in a silo
Mhm.
without parental interaction, without parental guidance, because again, this frontal part is not fully developed. So they're not making grown up, wise, thought out, planned out decisions because they don't have access to that part of the brain. And that's why parents need to be involved. They
Mhm.
need to know what their children are doing. They need to have the conversations with their children about what they're texting or what they're seeing on TikTok or Snapchat.
Mhm.
They need to be involved in these conversations because they have the ability to explain, well, this is what this is, and these are the dangers of that, and these are the consequences of this, because children can't do it yet.
Exactly, and that's why they're so easily molded and shaped by people who are into some skullduggery. Why they
Ex-
these little 14-year-old boys and girls to run dope with them,
Yes.
and they would tell the kid, "Now you can't use this, but this is where you're gonna drop it off here. You're gonna pick it up there." And I saw one time on the street we used to live on in Cleveland, and people always think the drug dealers and the gangsters are just horrible, terrible people. What they do is horrible, terrible.
Yes.
They're not horrible, terrible people.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
was with a drug dealer. What's going to be your retirement plan? Because this is not something you're going to retire and get a pension.
Right.
You're like, oh, retire, get a pension. A lot of these kids, especially out in LA, a lot of them don't think that they'll get to 30.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think, and that's so disheartening for a child. I remember I was speaking to a class of well, they were teenagers. They were like in the 11th grade, but they really didn't know a lot about a lot of things. And I thought that was a misconception, and it was wrong to not teach these kids. And I remember I was talking to this one girl. She was 15 or 16. And I was asking them, you pretty soon you're going to be out of high school. You're going to be out here in the world. What do you want to do with your time when you get out in the world? This little girl said, "Oh, mother love, I probably won't do that." But I asked her, what was she planning? She said, "I'm planning my funeral because I probably won't make it to 18.
Oh.
That was one of the times, I'm telling you, Dr. Erica, I had to literally leave the room.
Oh.
I kept saying, I got to keep talking to these kids. I have to keep talking to them. I got to let them know they're not out here by themselves. And the gangbangers and the sexual predators on these children, they're coming out like it's like if one of them, you get one of them, it's 50 more that that are doing the same thing. And I think a lot of that is on parents, and the parents really don't know what to do because maybe it happened to them.
Yeah.
And they were told, get over it, shut up, don't tell anybody about this. And you will put this on a child's brain and their psyche. Or what did you do? So was you walking around? I mean, a kid don't really understand. Well, now they can with the internet. I asked my granddaughter one day, I said, what is so-and-so? How'd you learn so-and-so and such and such? She said, on the internet. I was like, oh, let me get on this internet, see what's going on. And people don't have time. They're using these electronic devices for their kids to just, here's an iPad. Here's a tablet. Here, go over there and do whatever you want to do on the tablet. Just don't bother me.
Yes.
And the fact that you said parents have got to be involved.
Yeah.
And if the parents aren't involved, where can they go? Who can they talk to? Kids don't even know that they have post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff could, be scarring you from way back in the day, and you've been holding on to this for the duration. Now, is that like we got to peel back the layers therapy session one at a time, just peel them back and see what it is? I think a lot of times people don't even remember what they're angry about.
Yeah.
They've been holding on to it for so long. What would you say to somebody who's in that kind of position and they don't think that there's a way out? Is there always a way out?
In a way out of what? What position?
A way out of getting into an abusive situation, because you can find everything on the internet.
Yeah.
And parental control is a big thing. I think Mark Zuckerberg and all these big muckety mucks were up in DC having this conference, and they were, do you feel like that you're responsible for these young people's actions? And he just kind of sat there with a blank look on his face like he always does. And you cannot tell me that these people that run the internet, and it's only a few of them. I mean, Zuckerberg done bought up all of them. He just owned everything. And I don't know what he said because I really didn't want to hear what he said. Because I could do, seriously, we got grandchildren and nieces and nephews and kids that are not even blood connected to us, because you never know who's watching you.
Yes.
You never know who's watching you. So when you see this and you feel like you just have to do something. So you have to do something. Let's talk about your book. The first one is Dating with a Purpose, a single woman's guide to escaping no man's land. And she got her husband on the internet. So don't tell me you can't find nobody.
That's right.
Somebody for everybody. So what are the rules for a single woman, dating with a purpose?
So the basic rule is you got to do the work on yourself first. You really have to reflect and ask yourself, what am I bringing into this relationship? The good and the bad. What am I brought into relationships that contributed to the outcome of the relationship? And that's not taking responsibility for someone else's bad behavior. Maybe your part was that you stayed too long. Maybe your part was that you recognized the red flags and you did not act accordingly. Or maybe your fault was you ran your mouth too much. Whatever it is, you have to acknowledge and be aware of who you are in relationships, because relationships are a dance. You bring yourself, this person brings themselves, and you guys get together and you create some sort of interaction. And so you're a part of that. So the book is actually a workbook to help women to reflect on themselves, reflect on their past relationships, and really get in touch with who they are and what they want moving forward.
And moving forward, you've written a new book called Intimacy. I don't know what that sign is. Intimacy and
does not equal.
Oh, you know what? I remember that. I said, is this a math thing?
Yeah, does not equal.
Yeah, okay. Intimacy and not equal sex. 180 activities to help couples connect. 180 ways. Okay, really? Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, go and tell people about that. I'm finna put it up right here.
Oh, that's the book.
That's the book. What was your motivation to write this? Intimacy and
intimacy does not equal sex.
The
motivation came from me working with couples. And as you know, one of the questions you asked earlier was, did me and my ex-husband grow apart? And one of the things that I found was a lot of couples don't spend time connecting in intimate relationships or are developing the intimacy in the relationship. They think, well, as long as we are having sex, then everything is okay. But sex is only one type of intimacy. Couples have to be intentional about doing things together that fosters a deeper connection on a level outside of sex. So in the book, there's 180 activities because I talk about 6 different types of intimacy, and I give different activities to help work on the various types or the 6 types of intimacy.
Okay, the 6 types of intimacy, and one of them is not, it doesn't equal sex. Intimacy doesn't equal sex.
Right.
And I'm with that. I am so with that. And I think that's why it's important for people to marry, for people to marry people to marry their friend. And it sounds like you had done this. Well, Dr. Erica Holmes, it's been a pleasure to chat with you. Tell people where they can get your book and how they can get in touch with you.
Most definitely. Well, it has been wonderful, wonderful chatting with you. You can find me on my website, which is DOC Erica, ERICA. So docerica.com. You can find me on Instagram or TikTok at it's Doc Erica, and on Facebook at Doc Erica. So I'm all over. Just look me up. You can also find links to my books, and also if you go to my website, you can sign up to my mailing list, and you can get information about where you might see me.
Okay, that is wonderful. Well, I see you here, and I am so honored to have got the privilege of speaking with you today. You've given us some nuggets and some good nuggets. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful time. You know, it gets there. It gets there. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.
Okay.